back to the professor. So far, I like him.
Into each other so that there's no trace of the brushwork. Of course, this painting is completed after he's done his studies of anatomy, so he understands how the musculature of the lower face works. When he gives her that mysterious half smile, it's deliberate. Leonardo has his sitter almost completely still. She's immobile, and yet she's bursting with life. All we want to know is what she's thinking, and that is the power of Leonardo's portraiture, that he can convey so much interiority with so little motion. Now, if you go to the Louvre, you might be disappointed that you won't get a close encounter with Mona Lisa.
Oh no, that's not what disappoints me, my friend, Mr. Bevilacqua. What disappoints me is that it is in the Louvre. It should be in Italy. It should be in freaking Florence. That's where it belongs.
Because she is so popular. If you're ever in Washington, D.C., you can have an encounter with the first woman that Leonardo portrayed, Ginevra de' Benci, and you can have her probably all to yourself. Ginevra de' Benci called herself a mountain tiger. She was the original ice queen, as you can tell by looking at this painting. And getting to see it up close is one of the pleasures of the National Gallery. You can see Leonardo's brushwork, for example, the beautiful way in which the pearl hovers over her chest as it buttons together.
It almost seems 3D. Did you see that? That's insane. Leonardo da Vinci. What a man. Man, that's crazy. It looks 3D. That's crazy.
Together her very fine blouse. The Nintendo creator asks, what were common people's diets like in Renaissance era Europe? Their diets were pretty terrible.
Yep.
The diet of an ordinary person would really have been based around a staple crop. In Europe, it was mostly wheat that would give them the calories they needed.
Yeah, that's not terrible. That sounds great to me, Professor.
To get through the day. And this they would have eaten in the form of bread or perhaps gruel, which is a kind of porridge made with old bread. So not very exciting, not very delicious. Even the rich people were not eating many of the things that we consider characteristic of European cuisine. For example, the tomato is...
Of course, because, yeah, I mean, tomato is brought back from America, so you've got to wait for the Europeans to relocate to said America, of course, to bring it back, as the professor is correctly pointing out. Interestingly enough, the original tomatoes that were brought back to Europe, and then, of course, Italians, finally we got fixated, and that's all we eat, and literally my blood is diluted tomato. With that being said, initially Italians were a little... Well, not just Italians, but medieval Europeans thought it could have been poisonous. The original one, some of the original species were definitely smaller. This is something that already starts to get grown artificially. And some of the variety was yellow.
It's one of the many products that came from the Americas and that was not available in Renaissance Europe. So what even is Italian food without the tomato? Likewise, peppers, corn, squashes, avocados, also pineapples, and most depressingly, perhaps, cacao. So no chocolate in Renaissance Europe. In addition to this, something that is essential to many of us, coffee, was not yet known in Europe. So all of the achievements of the Renaissance, they were all achieved without caffeine. Eventually...
It is a great way to look at it. I like that. But I do disagree. I don't think that, since we're going into a little bit the idea of culinary past, I think that first of all, the food would have been much better than today when it comes to everything was seasonal. Nothing had the freaking plastics and chemicals and all the stuff that is bad for you that we put in it. And I still think, though, I mean, fish, for instance, you could literally, even as a lower person, depending on where you're from, if you're near a river, you could fish salmon and eat it. Usually you have to pay taxes because the land belongs to the Lord, whatever. There were taxes for everything in the medieval period. But I mean, you know, you can make a nice salmon, you can roast it and then create a little pesto or a little green sauce with some vegetables in your pestle and mortar and then cover it up. It's good. I don't believe this idea that if you were poor or during a famine or during war, then 100% we are on the same page. 100%. But in everyday life of medieval people, upper and lower class, as long as it was a period of relative success with the crops not failing and all that, I think the food would have been pretty good.
However, these goods start to trickle trickle in, and they start to decorate the tables of, by the end of the 16th century, of elite households. And in 17th century art, we see many beautiful still life paintings that depict all of these rich and wonderful agricultural products that are.
Sorry to interrupt him again, but this is such a good opportunity. Do you see this image? Of course, we're seeing a pineapple, once again, a fruit that you don't find in Europe until we get to, actually explore America with the European ships, and then we bring back the stuff. Did you hear about the idea of a pineapple already being in ancient Rome? Which is, of course, nonsense, but it's always funny to see it. Look at this. Pineapple in ancient Rome. Dun, dun, dun! The pineapple in ancient Rome. And so, yeah, there are people that literally made YouTube videos. I'm not joking. Seriously saying maybe the Romans reached America, got a pineapple, and somehow brought it back. Or I guess starting to plant them. I mean, bringing it back is not impossible. You can bring back the seeds, clearly. But they were saying that that's it, and that's nonsense. This isn't a pineapple. It's a pine cone. This is a pine cone. And the green that you see is from some asparagus behind it.
Still life paintings that depict all of these rich and wonderful agricultural products that are coming into Europe from all over the world.
Nice.
At Foster Hunter Art asks, what hidden message does Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper hold? The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci
Beautiful.
is a fresco that is found in Milan on a wall of the dining hall of the Dominican convent of Santa Maria delle Grazie. Many people have read the Da Vinci Code and have developed conspiracy theories about this painting. Specifically, they think that the Apostle John, the youngest apostle, who's seated to the right of Jesus Christ, is actually a secret depiction of the Mary Magdalene. This is nonsense. The fact that John looks slightly androgynous is actually entirely characteristic of Leonardo's art. Leonardo painted androgynous, or we might say gender fluid, young men throughout his entire career. There's no coded message there. But there's a lot to love about this painting. For one, the use of linear perspective, the ability to make a flat surface seem like it has spatial depth. And this is something that was not practiced in medieval art, but he makes very elegant use of it here by centering all of the spatial lines in the painting on the face of Jesus Christ.
Man, that's amazing.